that I'm highly offended we didn't get any public attendees. Very offended. But we'll do better next time. So I just put this general agenda together at Rolda's request. I didn't have anything specific. I do have some ideas that I want to throw out. Okay. And I did bring a copy of the charter, which I know you guys.
All right, Hector will correct me. I believe we have to call roll for the.
Call roll.
Is that right? For the minute, for the quorum.
Yes. Okay. Kieran, are you here?
Here.
All right, Ryan's here. So that's 2 of 3 subcommittee members. Matt's attending virtually.
I am here.
We meet the virtual, or we meet the in-person attendance for quorum. So thank you. We're going to rename it Kieran's Rules of Order. The famous book, not Robert's Rules, Kieran's Rules of Order. No, I appreciate it. It's good.
Sorry, but
no, it's all good.
For the recording, to know like who's present.
Sure, I got it. Okay, so we're ready to go. So anyway, the agenda was just a general agenda, and Kieran passed out this flyer here that I guess you had worked on before. So is that correct?
Yeah, that was the big accomplishment that we came up with, although we haven't had a meeting to discuss the printing of it, distribution of it, but we.
Oh, so nobody got this yet?
Well, a few people, but not, we haven't printed like a large amount of copies yet because there were some cost issues.
Yeah.
From the county that over a certain amount, you have to get approval.
Got it. So here's my thinking on some of this stuff, and you guys tell me what you think. And we can talk about content and stuff later. I think that's going to be harder. But and I made this comment during the regular TLC meeting that it seems strange to me that the county could require landlords to provide documentation on, recycling, but they won't provide or haven't yet required landlords to provide a one-page thing, flyer like this that's generated by the TLC that could be included with lease documents for every Arlington renter. In the last 2 years, the state of Virginia started requiring the tenant rights and responsibilities flyer to be signed and included in the lease documents. So I don't see why we couldn't come up with a document that we think contains pertinent information relative to the Tenant Landlord Commission and housing in Arlington, and ask the county board to pass a requirement starting, whatever the next period is, and require, this kind of thing to be handed out by Arlington landlords. You guys have thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me, although the path to require things is not as easy as it seems. Like there took a lot of work to require the whole tenant rights thing, probably a few years' work.
But that's a statewide thing, right?
I think we could ask on a voluntary basis that advise tenants that there's someplace.
The question is, how do you advise them?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. We'd have to work out the logistics of it. And this is a draft. I mean, this can be changed. Basically, the idea for this is just put something about the commission on one sheet. Because a lot of the stuff that we have that the county hands out is like, a pamphlet. It goes, something just simple, Yeah. There is a tenant landlord commission, and, you can speak at it. And that's it. I mean.
So I think this is good for advertising what we do. I think if we did a flyer that had multiple, almost like boxes, like a flyer, and one side could be English and the other side could be Spanish or something like that, that had basic information for housing resources for the county, and it was spearheaded by the Tenant Landlord Commission as the entity that recommended it be put out. Then, for example, if you go on the county's website, there's all kinds of resources for with, questions that tenants might have about, the VRLTA, the Landlord Tenant Act, or the Housing Office, or, all kinds of things like that. And I'm not suggesting that we put that kind of level of information on here, but that we give, tenants a list of resources that they can go to if you have a problem. Questions about your rights as a tenant, go to this webpage. Do you have a grievance? This is what the Tenant Landlord Commission does. Things like that are specific and put, I don't want to say put it in fine print, but put as many things that would be helpful to a tenant on here as possible so that this sheet can be a resource, kind of like the recycling sheet is a resource for tenants to know what they can throw away and what they have to recycle.
I don't disagree. I think during COVID there was a standard printout about tenant rights, right? That was available everywhere, like posted in buildings. We requested that landlords post it in the building somewhere that had these are the things you could resources for.
So I'm curious, how did you request that? Because I didn't get.
I don't know.
I never got something.
It was. We asked the landlord if it'd be okay to post it somewhere in the public hall.
But how did you get how did you communicate to the landlords?
So we did a call in. The commission called landlords to find out who was the property management for different properties. I believe we volunteered. A few of us called. Because we were sitting at home in COVID, a few of us called, like Kellen, who was our chairman at the time, and myself and a couple other people. We had a list and we called these properties and we said, would you agree to post information about? Yeah. And sometimes we didn't get anywhere because they said, our property management is in Dallas and you need to call or whatever. We need to call them, you need to get the permission from them. Right. But other times they just said, sure, why not?
Yeah. And then it was set up that they prepared the flyers, we separated them, and then we went several volunteers did the
This was just about COVID, but I think that it's just an example of.
Well, no, I was curious what you did before to understand how you reached out to landlords, because, for example, now in Arlington County, I only own 2 buildings, so I'm a small landlord.
So
I never heard from
the county gave us a list of known properties, I believe. Heck, the county provided a list with what they thought were the phone numbers, and then we called to verify who is the management for this property. Who do we speak to? We called to verify that list. Right. And sometimes, most of the time, the list was correct, but a couple, the list was not always.
We used to have, we used to print an apartment guide.
Right, I remember that.
And we had kept those addresses and contact information for some time. So by that time, we compiled that information. Somebody asked for information from our division, from other divisions, from other departments, and they tried to compile a list of complexes, and they sort of merge and update, and then it was try to call and contact them and verifying that it was correct or not.
Right.
So it was a touch and go.
Well, but that's a lot of work for a volunteer commission to be doing.
Well, it wasn't just the commission. It was county personnel doing that.
That's still a lot of work. Yeah. And that's a lot of work to call. How many apartment complexes are there in the county? A few thousand?
Yes.
My list, as I recall, was 20.
Yeah, it was
20 to 25. So that if it's 2,000, they probably divided it up I don't know how many.
Yeah. My point is that's a lot of work. If this became something that came from, the board level and said, starting on July 1 or January 1 of next year, whatever, that, kind of like what the office of, the resource guy, the solid waste guys, that require landlords to register for recycling and stuff like that. If they got a PDF from the county that had whatever we wanted to have on it and said, you must distribute this with your leases, then the onus is on them, right? The onus is on the landlord to comply with the law and pass this out. I'm saying this from a landlord point of view. It'd be much easier to do.
I think my only question is the must, because the must gets into legality.
Can the county board require them?
Yeah.
And
We can ask.
recommendations? Because it's.
Well, the county
it's
board
not-
requires us to submit recycling information.
But it was based on something else or something that either the state or the,
Virginia environmental.
yeah,
I
or
think there's a
or
code.
the Environmental Protection Agency was required. So they have to follow the rules and get the guidance. In this, is there anything that will force them to pursue it? Because I don't think they have the ability to force anyone.
Well, I mean, they regulate housing, right? So,
So
but anyway, I don't know the answer to the question. I'm not the lawyer, but it seems like maybe Rolda would know if she's the liaison to the board. Whether or not, we would want to recommend that they take action to have them distribute a flyer like this. And again, not just on, I think this is good that has, that talks about what the Arlington, what the TLC does and provides information on how to contact
Resources for them.
There should be a lot of resources. I mean, put as much as we can reasonably put on one page.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Anything more than one page gets lost.
I'm not in disagreement. I think there might be some further thinking on the details. What will be in it and.
Yeah, the content is
yeah.
So the issue would be to see if there's the possibility of passing an ordinances that will make landlords distribute a flyer.
Right.
So basically that's.
yes.
We can look into that. If there's a feasibility, yeah, but we have to investigate that first before we go any further.
Okay. I mean, I think that, assuming that's one of the goals that we want to adopt. I mean,
Okay.
The idea was one of the goals for the outreach subcommittee, right? So I would throw out as my idea that we consider doing a flyer that builds off of what you already did, Kira, with maybe more detail and resources that's required to be, see if the board will act on that or not. And even if they don't act on it, we can find other ways to include this, right?
Yeah.
So I think whether we do a flyer, I think we should do a flyer and we should talk about content next. How it gets distributed, ideally, it would be best if the county board said, hey, landlords, you got to pass these out. If they're not willing to take that action, then we can find another way. So that was my thought. What about other goals do you or Matt have?
I think we need to, one thing we discussed in the previous subcommittee is making sure the county is using all its communication, is including us in its communication, like, and I haven't checked recently, but at the time we were checking, like, are they listing us on Housing Arlington? Because Housing Arlington is a separate page of itself on the website. Are they when they have Arlington County engagement, is our meeting listed as an engagement opportunity? They list opportunities for engagement, online, all kinds of different things online, do this, do that, but are we listed? And what that takes is somebody to follow up, one person to put their hand up from whatever, from our subcommittee or any other person who wants to volunteer, just to check to see if the answer is yes to the question. I mean, I wouldn't assume that we're always included. Sometimes I had to contact somebody and
So can I restate what you said?
Yeah.
Is the TLC represented on county websites or resources in terms of whether or not we're,
Right, and they're not, that doesn't just mean the website, it could mean like
Yeah,
other things that they have.
I see publications, I assume you mean, right?
Things that go out to the public or that are related, that have some relationship to us.
Okay. It feels like that's a question for Rhoda, unless we want to all research it ourselves. I'm not sure where I would look. I mean, because if you put in Arlington Tenant Landlord Commission on the website or in Google, it comes right up. So whether we're represented elsewhere in other places that we should be represented, I don't know.
Well, we were represented if we made sure that they included us, is basically the short answer.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the county. They have all kinds of different things on these different pages.
The thing is, there's a lot of commissions, a lot of meetings, and everything is, well, we're posting it, everything in calendars and the webpage, but you get lost in the shuffle.
Of course.
It's, unless you're looking for it specifically, you can hardly see all the things that are going there.
Right.
And also last year the county was redesigning its webpage, so they made it look kind of.
All right, so maybe it's worth investigating whether or not we're there or we're not. Matt, you have any ideas or goals for things that you want to see the outreach subcommittee do?
I would say one of the things would be probably like at least trying to maybe research or look into how we can do maybe in-person sort of advertising, whether that's tabling at events or tabling at like community events where that outreach could be necessary. I know that there's like a lot of festivals that happen down on the pike, and there's like, all the farmers markets and things like that. Just something to let people know that we're around. Obviously, it doesn't have to be at every single thing that happens, but I think that having that in-person touch where you're there may be a little bit, I don't know, like in the cases where we might not be able to get those flyers in front of people, right? And then people aren't really aware that this commission exists. I think that might be an interesting thing, but just have to find what the appropriate venue and environment for that would be. But that's one of the things that I was kind of interested in, having that little bit of more of a, I guess, in-person communication touch to it.
Well, if we did some kind of, again, printed flyer or something like that, we could ask for the Office of Housing or other county agencies who sponsor in-person things to include our paraphernalia, if you will, at whatever event they sponsor.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be a big ask.
This was raised before, and we did agree, and we communicate to the commission all the time of all meetings, fairs, and activities. And we also have given under that the opportunity for commission members to be present when we have tables, when we distribute the information. We have information about the Landlord Commission, and we invite the commissioners to come in if they want to be present there. So far, for the last couple of years, the only one that came was Kurt.
Kudos to Kurt.
So that is going on. We notify the commission of all the fairs and activities we do, but nobody came. That's basically it.
No, I agree, Matt. It's a very valid point. We used to actually attend the Arlington County Fair. We had like alternate slots. Kristen was there. I was there. Mike Campbell, who's no longer on the commission, was there. And the Buckingham Festival, I was there with Hector one year. But
in order to do that, we're gonna need like volunteers from the entire commission. You know, everybody's gonna have to take a slot somewhere or
Yes, you can request a table. We, as the division, we usually get a table or they give us a table. But if you want, as commission, only to be represented, then you have to man that table.
Yeah, I understand.
And that it's,
I
somebody
understand
has
that.
to be there.
I kind of have a problem with that a little bit, because the commission is made up of various parties from tenants, landlords, and then interested members of the public, right? If you get somebody who's got, a landlord representative is gonna potentially give you a different take on something that comes up if you're in person, right? Let's say I'm manning a table, and they come up and say, hey, I've got this issue, and they don't want to wait to come to a subcommittee meeting, right? They want to talk to you now and get some guidance now. Well, I might tell them something that might be different than what you would tell them, or a tenant rep would tell them. It makes me more comfortable that we have something that's in writing, that's a piece of paper that people can rely on, and then if they want to come to the commission meeting, which is what this is set up for, that they can do that.
That's basically it. If we do have, it's a pamphlet that we use for the Tenant Landlord Commission that we distribute when we take to fairs or meetings or groups or reunions where we have a table. We have for the Tenant Landlord Commission, we have for home ownership, we have for tenant landlord.
Right.
I do go because I provide information about tenant landlord rights.
Right.
And I mean, the commissioners ask to be present and participate. And we tell them, we're going, at this time, we're gonna have a table. And that's the thing. If you wanna come, you're welcome. You can participate and help, but the response was very, very low. And that, it's, the only one I saw is.
No, I think my memory is it was specific questions were unusual. We were promoting the fact that there is at least at the fair, we were promoting the fact there was a commission. I think one year we had like a spinning wheel. I forget what it landed on, but because you have to have some activity or something. We had some kind of activity or guess the.
Previously, the county fair, each department and each section had their own table. That's no longer the thing. It's the whole government. Several departments only have one table.
Yeah.
Where they put flyers. So we no longer have that ability. It's limited now, but in different groups, for example, the Buckingham, the Live in Arlington fair that we create, we do post information. We have it. And the meetings or fairs that the Department of Human Services do, they do invite us to have a table, invite us to a table, and we provide the same information. So it's.
So if I was to distill this down, if we're talking about goals of what the outreach secretary wants to do. So the third one, other than the one I threw out, the one you threw out, the one that Matt threw out, would be TLC outreach at in-person events as a potential goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that exploring it may, we obviously might find these roadblocks, right? That it might not be attainable, but exploring the option at least will give us another avenue if we need it, right? Not necessarily saying like it's 100% necessary, but whatever works, it works. And to Kieran's point earlier, I think just how we're advertised everywhere, right? I mean, to find the commissions right now on like the Arlington County website, you have to go through like 3 or 4 different like tabs before you find the tenant landlord commission, and even then it's kind of hard for someone who doesn't understand how these things work to navigate the page, right? And I think that that's part of the issue. It's like it's hard to locate things like that. And I think that, however, figuring out how that's advertised in a way that's more accessible may be an easier way to get across to people who are actively searching this out. Because I've had a couple friends of mine who have had, issues with landlords as renters, and they've asked me what their options are because they know that I'm on the commission, but other people who don't have that kind of connection to someone personally might not get that information as readily available. So, yeah.
And I guess that was kind of the idea behind doing a more comprehensive flyer, is if you can put a number of different resources that somebody gets with their lease, and if they say, hey, I'm having an issue here, where can I go to handle this? Whether it's, rental assistance, or whether it's code violations, or whether it's some kind of, some kind of topic that's appropriate to come to a TLC meeting to discuss.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not to get in too much into the weeds here on that, but I think the issue is the, I guess, enforcement of that. Like, how is it possible? I know that there might be a lot of landlords might be compliant with it and want to put those flyers in their leasing packets, right? Like, voluntarily. But, how will we make sure that it's a, 100%, not 100%, but vastly majority compliant across the board? I think that in the with the tenant rights flyers, I think that was definitely not the tenant rights flyers, the recycling thing. I think that was a General Assembly state legislative bill that was passed and handed down, because, since we're in a Dillon rule state here in Virginia, everything has to be passed to the state before it's passed on the county level. Right. So that might be maybe something that you can lobby our state legislative representatives just for Arlington County, right? Like, making sure that commission stuff is handed out, like, and all that. So, yeah.
Distributing fares.
So, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Matt. I guess if we can investigate further to find out what's possible at the county board level and what isn't. And again, maybe it's not a requirement, maybe it's a strong suggestion, but I don't know the answer to that. We'd have to find out, right? But putting all those resources in one place that sits on one flyer, I think it's going to be better for everybody, because it's going to get the county departments that are, that have a particular focus on a particular issue are going to get a lot more exposure. Number one. Number two, if we, we got to be careful, because if we're too successful and we end up with 10 people at a meeting all wanting us to, arbitrate their issue, we're not going to have time to do anything else. So, just a thought. So do we want to discuss, so I think we have these 3 goals. I'll bring these up at the next meeting in a few weeks and, see what people think. Do we want to talk about, Kira, do you want to kind of brief us on any other significant activities of the previous subcommittee?
Yeah, I mean, I had some problems on the county site, but I printed like minutes from a previous meeting that we had. And basically, we've already talked about a couple of these. The one thing we haven't talked about, so for Matt, I'm sorry, I don't have a copy posted. So the flyer on a single page, county site reminders. One thing we talked about is if we're going to encourage people to come to our meetings that might be before you were on the commission, that we have some kind of response to public comment. So we're encouraging people to show up, and then if they show up and they have, a complaint, whatever it is, did somebody respond to them, whether it, was it Rolda respond, whatever, depending on what their complaint was. Was it Rolda? Was it like code enforcement? Was it David Tim, the chair? But we discussed like making sure that there was some response to them and that we followed up on that. And we have generally.
It seems to me that our biggest as the TLC overall, that our biggest power is the power of the pen, right? To write a letter, whatever it might be, to a various county body to get some action, because we're not an action empowered body, right?
Right.
So I hope I hope that this public, pledge to respond to public comment actually is happening. It's hard for me to see because that usually then after the meeting goes to something between David and Rolda. Right?
Exactly right. So if it's like in some cases might have been we've had all kinds of public comment. It could be like something isolated that building, could be something about issues at a specific building, like a specific issue. But I guess the point was that we followed up.
So maybe
next meeting somewhere and said.
Maybe we can make it a standing agenda item at TLC meetings.
Right, that's what we did suggest, and I know we've had a lot of new members, but the other thing that we haven't discussed is partly about the in-person meetings, Matt. This could be appropriate. Is we just touched the surface of groups that might be interested in knowing we exist, like groups that already are involved in Arlington. Like, is anybody have contacts with Voice? I'm a member for the Civic Federation for my civic association. Like,
I don't know what
Civic Federation is a group that meets once a month at the hospital center that represents a lot of different groups in Arlington, especially civic associations.
Is that Voice?
No, Voice is a different one. Voice is like I guess started as an interfaith, but
some kind of advocacy group.
Represents tenants basically. I mean, for affordable housing, but groups that maybe I haven't thought of. We all have different experiences. So, but the point is that we contact them, let them know we exist in whatever format they have, whether it's announcement or newsletter that they send out. Just try to put something in about the commission. So that the other things I think we already discussed. So, I mean, we had like a brainstorming, but we kind of narrowed it down to these things to work on. I mean, there were other things we just decided we didn't have the bandwidth to take on.
I'd rather have fewer things and actually get them done than have more things and not get any of them.
Yeah. So, but we have this is a new group, so we can have different ideas. I mean, that's the whole point. We could think of it, but this was essentially Bisma, myself, Chris Winbush, and Saul Reyes of Bugada.
Okay.
Was on the previous group, and I can't even remember if anybody else ever attended. Probably not, like from the public.
So, okay, so if we have some of these goals and some of the previous efforts, and maybe we build on those previous efforts, I mean, to me, it seems like maybe we should set a timeline to achieve something over the next calendar year, because I'm worried that maybe we'll gain or lose commission members, and then we'll be right back to the beginning. So it seems like if we can maybe get some of these, kind of gating questions answered about what the county board can or can't do, and, are we properly represented on county websites, and, where are we mentioned at in-person events? If we can do some homework on that, then maybe we can set goals to try to
I agree.
by a certain date, June 30th or something like that.
I think one thing we'll need to think about is what are the other things, like if there's a backside to this, what are the resources, like what are they gonna be?
Well, I think one side needs to be English and the other side needs to be Spanish. So I think it needs to be the same.
Did we do Spanish on this?
I can put the interpretation I need.
No, I can't remember. Did we?
But if we do something different than this though, so my thought is, if Matt, you're not gonna see this, but I'll hold it up when I've done my amazing drawing here, but if, just something that says, like in bold print, are you a renter in Arlington? Bold print at the top, bigger than that. And then here are some things you might need to know, brought to you by the Arlington County Tenant Landlord Commission. And then you have a box that talks about, the TLC. And you have a box that talks about the Office of Housing. And you have a box that talks about, website or phone contacts for various departments. You have a box that I don't know. I mean, this is where I need your help to talk about what you might want to have on this, but something that's got basic information for the various things that are you is your do you have a tenant complaint? Complaint. How to deal with that? Come see the TLC and advertise our meetings or something like I don't know. But something that kind of puts it all in one place, that gives you 5 or 6 different little sections. That's Matt. I don't know if you can see that at all, but
yeah, no, I know what you're talking about though. For sure. It's a easily decipherable informational flyer that you give to somebody, right?
Yeah, and then where can you go? Because not all the time are they going to come to the TLC, right? But we can provide information on other departments. I mean, if there's, if it's code enforcement, or if it's the Office of Housing, or if, some information on the housing grant, or, things that would be of interest to people renting their homes in Arlington. I don't know what the full universe of those things are. That probably requires a different session.
I don't either.
Yeah, but we can start and see what people think.
I can bring a few informational flyers that are around. The Department of Human Services has come up with very nice ones, and based on that, we can.
I'd love to see what they have.
Yeah.
It might just give ideas for other things.
It doesn't say much, but it gives a lot of information, and we're looking into changing some of ours to that.
And if you make it colorful and easy to read, because this has everything that we want, it's not exciting to look at. And I doubt anybody who gets this is going to be like, oh, I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I could be wrong.
No, you're right. We were trying to make it simple and easier. That's why it's small, but it could be made shorter.
What I like about I guess Chris Winbush is mostly responsible. What I like is like the scan code,
Yeah, the QR code. That's not a bad idea.
That's what the new ones are having. So
because that's the way a lot of things are going.
it's amazing how QR codes work now. Everywhere you go,
Yeah. Well, I think COVID helped speed that up. But for this whole section of this three section thing is all about who we are. Honestly, I don't really care who we are. We can put a little blurb down here that says.
No, I understand. Your idea is bullet points for
The public.
things, resources that people would need.
That's right.
I have this problem. Who do I call?
Exactly.
But It'll take a little bit of editing to make sure we have the right
Basically,
stuff,
What,
right?
what this is could all come in like in here.
But I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think a renter cares about this stuff. We care, and the
No.
government cares, but the renters don't care. They're like, okay, established in 1974, I don't care. I'm having a problem with my heat, and I need, my landlord's being a jerk, who do I talk to?
Yeah, but no, what I was saying is, this can be reduced and be in one small box here with more detailed information about meetings than what it is. These also, for example, this is the office what I do most of the time. We can reduce this and make easier to access the information.
Let me ask this, Hector, does the county have like a graphic design department that does, they don't?
Everybody does their own.
They all do their own?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fine. I mean, I can come up with a draft, or somebody with graphic design experience come up with a draft and, you know, of ideas. I don't think that's a big deal.
I did this one based on what they had before. It
Sure,
was different.
and I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to be.
And I did the translation too, that made it easier, and it was good for some time. I see your point.
Yeah,
And we should be more up to date. And I can change a lot of things of this based on what you just mentioned and see how it works. Then we can add more or reduce.
why don't I mock up a draft of something? And it's not gonna have any text, but just a draft of how something like that would look. And I can bring it to the next meeting and let people give their opinions.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, because a lot of the county stuff has, I mean, it has somebody with, you know, design background has worked on it, so I wasn't sure.
We have some sections, but it's,
Hit or miss.
yeah.
Yeah, got it, okay.
Program.
I can have something and I ask them, hey, put this in a better
Yeah,
format. And they have the access to those programs and they can just play with
Yeah,
it
tweak it, I
and make
got you.
it nicer and that's.
Yeah.
That we can do, but a lot of them, we do our own because
Yeah.
basically it has to be updated sometimes constantly.
Well, and that's the beauty of it, if we can get it done and it's distributed in electronic format to landlords or whomever, then updating it's easy. You're not keeping stocks of, you know, of printed stuff that all of a sudden you print it and all of a sudden it's out of date, right?
Yeah, we don't print much now.
No, I know.
Everything
Yeah.
mostly goes into the webpage or we distribute it electronically.
Yeah,
A lot of it, we do that now, it's easier.
yeah,
We do print when we take it to fairs because it's easier for people to collect.
right, sure. Well, printing 50 or 100 makes sense if you've got an event you're going to, right? But doing a flyer like this and printing 1,000 of them to have around is, you know, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But having an electronic version, a PDF that can go out and be updated anytime, and then somebody can print it if they really want a hard copy. So do we want to try to set like a goal date by where we try to implement some of these initiatives?
That might be synonymous with when our next meeting is, right?
No, but I meant like actually getting some stuff done. Like, I mean,
Sure.
I would say if we can try to get something done by June 30th. The reason I say that is at least for some of these initial ideas, because then we're off for August, so we miss a month.
Yeah, that sounds doable. It wasn't, to me anyway. Matt?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, middle of the year, halfway through the year would make sense. Because then we can spend the rest of at least the rest of the calendar year trying to actually follow through on it, right? Where we have a plan in place for June, and then through the rest of the year and up until December, we're trying to actually make sure that it's implemented correctly.
Depending on what it is, we might be able to implement it by the end of June. That was kind of my thought.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah. I just see, I don't know. I guess it depends on how many times we meet from now from now until then, I guess. You know what I mean?
So
Yeah.
my thought here would be to at the next TLC meeting, give everybody a briefing on what we talked about here, right? Possibly talk to them, and again, we've got 3 different goals we outlined, and they all kind of interconnect to a degree, but they're separate. And then talk about how we're going to, you know, kind of build upon some of the efforts that you guys had earlier with the, you know, previous outreach subcommittee, and then, you know, broach the idea of a flyer like this, see what people think about it, and whether or not we can, you know, ask the board to help us get it distributed. And if we can do that in 6 months, I think we all have done a lot.
That sounds good to me. And I think generally what we've done is we reported to the full commission what we're doing, and basically we said, you know, does it sound okay?
Yeah.
You know, unless anybody has spoken up and said they doesn't agree with that. You know, and in the past there's been agreement. So I mean, that's generally, I mean, as a subcommittee, we're just a smaller part of the whole, so we want to make sure that.
Of course.
But otherwise, yeah, that sounds good.
And I'm interested in what they have. They might have come up with something that we haven't thought of to bring. So.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else?
So the meetings are gonna be regularly on the 3rd.
What
This
did
is the
you
4th
decide on?
one.
What do you think?
Well, we're gonna have to do this again. We're gonna have to do it again, you know, sometime after the next meeting. So the next meeting is February 8th.
So it's going to be the 4th Wednesday of each month.
The 4th Wednesday. So that would be the 22nd. I could do that.
I have to check. I'll let Matt check too.
Okay. I think we're probably gonna need to set these as they go because I've got various things. I'm actually on 2 commissions in Alexandria.
Mhm.
So I've got.
I believe as long as we meet at 7, should generally be good, but.
Okay.
Yeah, I should generally be able to do the same day at 7.
So what is, you said 4th Wednesday?
Yeah, the 22nd. of
So
February.
2 weeks after the commission.
Correct.
Yes. That way I can reserve this for the whole, I guess, until December or shorter than that.
Say that again, I'm sorry?
Is this going to be a concurring or for just that period of time?
I mean, I think we see how it goes. I mean, we can ask David whether or not this needs to, you know, continue beyond the first half of the year.
Okay.
I think it depends on if we can accomplish what we want to accomplish. If we can, I don't see a need.
David, are you here? I thought he was joining.
Yeah, right.
So what I'll do then is I'll reserve this room from the 4th Wednesday of each month until June.
Yeah, hold on, let me just double check that.
I don't think it's, I think from my previous experience,
It can be, the meeting can be canceled with some notice if it turns out we don't need to do it.
Okay, I mean, I can do it the 22nd of March too. That actually works for me, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually it doesn't. I'm out of town.
in other words, we could block it out, but we don't have to do it if that seems not necessary.
Okay, well, I can tell you right now that I'm the week of the 20th of March, I'm not here. So this is the kind of thing where I just have a problem.
Okay, let's do this. I'll reserve the rooms anyway until July.
Okay.
And if if somebody's going to be out, then if there's no quorum, we can cancel.
Okay.
What are we saying? We saying the February is 22nd, right?
Yeah, February
February
22nd, March 22nd, April 26th, May,
Okay.
May
All right.
24th.
February is okay, right, as of right now.
February's good. March, Matt, if you could be here in person with Curate, then I can call in from California. I'll be on a business trip.
Yeah, I could do that.
Talking about March, fingers crossed, I don't have my schedule that far in advance. Okay. That's all I can say at this point.
That's right.
Do my best.
1, 2, 3, and then one after that would be the 26th. April 26th. I'm just gonna put these on here.
I prefer being in person, I'm not gonna lie. I had enough Zoom calls for a lifetime.
I'm with you. All right, well, I think we have a plan.
Okay.
Anything else to discuss, Matt?
Nope, good here.
Curate?
No, I'm good.
All right. I think, do we have to vote on adjournment? I think
don't
we can
think
just
so.
adjourn.
No.
Thank you, members of the public, for not coming.
I don't believe that's the case.
All right, see you, Matt.
Bye.
I'm